So if you're like me and you want to be using credit cards to build your credit score, travel for free, or even just earn some extra cash back, you can't just be using any old credit card. You really have to be using the ones that fit your needs. That's why in this video, we're going to be looking at how to choose the right credit card for you, because there's a lot of things to consider from hundreds of cards out there, but some of those things are going to be more important than others. So I'll dive a little bit into my own thought process for choosing what things make the most sense to prioritize. And then at the end, I'm also going to answer a few common questions that should give you some good direction as well. So as always, let's get right into it here. Make sure to go ahead and tap the like button and subscribe down below to help support the channel. But I want to first start off this video by quickly having you ask yourself whether you're a beginner with credit cards. So maybe you only have 1 or 2 cards, or even just 0 if you're truly just getting started. But if you're a beginner, what I think you really should be focusing on right now is credit cards with no annual fees. And we want to do that for 2 main reasons. First, you might have a limited credit history as a beginner, so it's going to be a lot harder to get approved right now for some of those cooler premium cards you might want that'll give you all those rewards and benefits. It's not impossible to get approved for those cards, but it is less common. Then the second reason you want to start by focusing on no annual fee cards is because of the credit score factor called length of credit history. Now, length of credit history is essentially going to look at how long you've had your active credit accounts open, and in general, the longer your average age of credit across those accounts, the better. So getting some good beginner credit cards at first that have no annual fees and that you can keep open forever is something that over time has a positive effect on your credit score, and it's the reason why my first 2 credit cards both have 0 fees and remain open to this day. Now we can get into a whole lot more about secured credit cards, student credit cards, authorized users, and all that stuff when we're talking about beginner credit cards. And those are all good options to look into if you're really starting from 0 credit history at all. But I think that's going to be better for a future video, so let me know down in the comments below if you want to see something like that. All right, then the next thing that I think anyone can identify as an important factor to consider when choosing the right credit card is whether you want to earn cash back or points for travel. In my opinion, cash back is going to be more straightforward and easier to manage, but travel credit cards that earn points can definitely give you a much higher upside with value if you're willing to put in a bit of work to understand how to redeem your points the right way. Now you can always change back and forth between team cashback and team travel, and even have multiple credit cards on both sides. But for me personally, over the past few years, I've really leaned heavily towards team travel. And the reason for that goes back to why I even got into credit cards in the first place after I graduated college back in 2018. So I literally only had one boring student credit card back then that didn't really do much other than start to build my credit. Then once I graduated, I started to get the urge to travel and see new places, but the only problem is that I'm also very passionate about personal finance and things like budgeting, saving money, and investing. So because I was on a limited salary, I wanted to keep my travel expenses as low as possible, and that really led me into the world of credit card rewards. That's why once I got my credit history established, I started focusing on getting credit cards that earn points that I could redeem for travel. So like I said, it's really up to you with whether you want to go ahead and do that or just go with cashback instead, because I know plenty of people that love the simplicity of a good cashback setup. But just know that if you even travel just a couple of times per year and fly or stay in hotels, then I think there's going to be a good argument for you to go with that travel route instead, because like we're going to talk about next here, you're just going to have more options and a higher upside. Now that brings me to the next 2 things that I considered, and you should too if you do decide to go with travel cards, and that would be something called the Chase 524 rule and flexible points currencies. So many of you that have watched my channel or other credit card channels out there probably already know about the 524 rule, but for anyone that's new to this stuff, the Chase 524 rule is basically just an unofficial rule that Chase has, which says that if you've opened 5 or more personal credit cards across all issuers within the past 24 months, you will automatically be denied for any new Chase credit cards. And the reason why this is important is because it brings up the discussion of opportunity cost with credit cards. Now, opportunity cost is basically just what value you're giving up by going with one option over another. So in the world of credit cards, Chase is known to have some of the best cards for their sign-up bonuses, points multipliers, benefits, and stuff like that. And that kind of makes the ideal strategy for most people that plan to accumulate many credit cards over time to prioritize Chase cards while you're still under the 524 rule to optimize for the most value while you can. Now, if your plan is to only have like 3 to 5 credit cards in total, then this rule isn't as important for you. But for someone like me who's up to 11 active credit cards and counting, I'm glad that I got my Chase credit cards first under that rule and created a Chase trifecta setup. And by the way, if you want to get some more details on the Chase cards that I use in that setup or any of the other best credit cards out there, I actually partnered up with a great site called Slick Deals that has a ton of information where you can learn more about different offers. If you're not familiar with Slick Deals, they basically just have an entire section on their website dedicated to explaining the best credit cards and offers going on right now. So definitely go check them out at the link down below if you're interested. But getting those Chase credit cards also brings me to my next thing to consider when you're choosing the right credit card for you, which is flexible points currencies. So those Chase cards that I just talked about all earn earn what's called ultimate rewards points, which is one example of a flexible currency because it allows me to have multiple options with how I want to redeem the points that I earn. I could turn those Chase points into hotel points with different hotel programs like Hyatt or Marriott, or I could turn them into airline miles with United or Avios with British Airways, and I could do all that by using my Sapphire Preferred to transfer my flexible ultimate rewards points over to any one of those programs or many more that have partnered up with Chase. I could also choose to redeem my points for travel through Chase's portal and effectively get a discount compared to what I would pay in cash for something like a flight, hotel stay, or a car rental. And I can even redeem my Chase points for cash back if I wanted to, which means that in many situations you can turn a travel credit card setup into a cashback setup. But if you go with cashback only cards, then you're just stuck with cashback as your one redemption option. So I think that having flexible points currencies like Chase Ultimate Rewards points or American Express membership rewards points is better to get into at first compared to applying for specific airline or hotel cards, because again, you have options with flexible points currencies, but you're just locked into one thing if you go with a specific airline or hotel card like United or Marriott or any one of those. All right, now hopefully all that makes sense and you can kind of see the decision-making process that I've gone through as I've chosen my own credit cards. But next here, let's get into what I believe are really the three most important things to think about when choosing the right credit card for you. And those are going to be the welcome bonus, the annual fee, and the points or cashback categories. So I want to focus on the welcome bonus first because in general, it's important to remember that a credit card's initial sign-up bonus is going to give us the highest return on our spending and the most upfront value, which is why we want to pick cards that have good bonuses. We also want to make sure that we're choosing bonuses with minimum spend requirements that are reasonable for us to hit according to our own normal budgets, because most offers will say something like spend $500 in the first 3 months to get a $200 bonus. Now, $500 over 3 months is reasonable for most people, but then we look at some more premium cards and they could have a higher requirement for something like $4,000 of spending in 3 months to get maybe 60,000 points. Now, along with the welcome bonus, I also have to talk about annual fees because these two things can be closely related, with higher sign-up bonuses usually coming with cards that have higher annual fees. So I like to tell people not to be afraid of paying for a credit card because what you're really looking for is positive net value, where for something like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, for example, we might pay $95 per year, but then in return, you get that 60,000 points up front worth a minimum of $750 towards travel, plus better points categories, better benefits, and other things like that, which can easily make that annual fee worth it. But again, I don't want to get into too much details about any one card in this video, so I will have that link down below that'll explain the best credit cards out there a little bit better. Now, it's easy to justify an annual fee in year one because the welcome bonus is almost always going to offset that annual fee a few times over. But then when your annual fee comes around again in year two, that's when you really have to evaluate those points and cashback categories, the benefits and features, and even the travel insurances and other smaller stuff like that to decide if it's really worth it for you. So in terms of points and cashback categories, you want to try to find cards that align with your spending habits, but you should also decide how many credit cards you want to have. If you plan to have many credit cards like me, then you can try to optimize and get a different card that'll be best for each category. So maybe you can get one card that earns a lot on travel, one card that's good for groceries, one card for dining, one for gas, and kind of approach it that way if you think you can manage all of it. And once you've established a core setup, you can also go ahead and chase after all those elevated bonus offers that these credit card companies will have from time to time, because again, welcome bonuses give a ton of upfront value. But if you're more of an average credit card user and you don't really want to carry any more than 2 to 4 cards, then I would say to definitely prioritize finding 1 or 2 cards that'll earn well for your highest spending categories, and then another card that'll earn well from miscellaneous purchases. Now, I have a few other videos here on my channel about the best credit cards overall and just for cash back, so make sure to subscribe and check those out later. But I would say that for most people, that means to maybe find at least one card that earns 4 to 5% back on groceries, and then another card that earns around 2% back on everything. Getting cards like that first is going to help you to set up a good foundation, and then you can always build on that later. All right, so just as a quick recap for the order of operations here to choosing the right credit card. First, if you're a beginner, stick with no annual fee cards as you establish your credit history for maybe a year or two. And if you're truly starting from zero, try looking at secured credit cards, student credit cards, or get added as an authorized user under someone with good credit. Then ask yourself if you would prefer cashback or travel rewards. Cashback is going to be simple and easier to manage, but travel points and miles have more upside value and might require a bit more research to learn how to redeem them the best way possible. Again, I personally prefer to be on team travel, and the next considerations you want to prioritize when you go down that path are the Chase 524 rule if you want to take advantage of Chase credit cards. And then I think at first you should also get cards that earn flexible points currencies over specific airline and hotel credit cards. Now, of course, if there is a specific airline or hotel card that makes a lot of sense for you as a frequent traveler and customer, or if there's some sort of an amazing offer going on run, then yeah, you can go ahead and opt to get one of those instead. But in general, with travel credit cards, look to get flexible points. And right now, Chase and Amex points are my two favorites, but Capital One, Citi, and some other points currencies are good as well. Then once you've established what you're looking for in those areas, next you can look at the most important things about credit cards, which are their welcome bonuses, annual fees, and points or cashback categories. When you group those things together, you can pretty easily decide whether you'll get any positive net value in year one, as well as in year two and beyond with any credit card. Now that leads me to some of the smaller additional things that I consider last when I'm choosing the right credit card, even though they still are very important to think about, and that would be the other insurance benefits, protections, and features that are sometimes a bit harder to put value on. So these could be travel insurances, primary auto rental coverage, airport lounge access, no foreign transaction fees, a lot of features that you'll find on travel credit cards with annual fees. So it's important to look into these things if you're looking to use credit cards for travel like me. The value that you put on these things really does vary from person to person, so only you can decide if these things are worth anything to you. But me, for example, I like having airport lounge access on my travel credit cards because that's a bonus way to sort of enhance my travel experience to get some free food and drinks as well, which have some value. And then I've also used things like primary auto rental coverage, better points redemption features, and other travel things like that make certain annual fees worth it to me. Now, by no means is this a completely comprehensive guide, but really just some things to think about and sort of my own thought process that I go through when I'm choosing the right credit cards for me and my situation. But finally here, let's just answer a few common questions that can really help you in deciding what cards to get as well. So the first question here, what if I get an annual fee card and don't really want it anymore in the future? For this, I would say that before you get any card with an annual fee, start by making sure that you think it's worth it, not just in the first year, but also for the long term. Like I said, almost any card can be worth it in year one with the welcome bonus as long as you reach that minimum spend requirement, but in year two and beyond, you really have to see what value it provides you and look beyond that bonus. But once you get beyond that year one point and your second annual fee hits, you might have two options. Number one, you can ask for a retention offer where basically you just call up or message customer service and you say this credit card isn't giving me as much value as I thought it would, but you still want to remain a customer, so are there any retention offers available? They might give you some points or a statement credit that can help you to offset the cost of that annual fee, but it's not guaranteed. So I made a separate video you can go ahead and check out if you want to, where I walk through an entire retention offer that I got before on another card. But the second option is that you might be able to downgrade your annual fee card into a no annual fee option in the same product family, which is going to help you to get rid of that annual fee while still keeping the same account open, which is good for your credit score. Not all cards have this downgrade option, so just research ahead of time before you apply for a card with an annual fee. That way, at least you have some sort of a backup plan if things don't work out long term. Next, for question 2 here, what credit score do I need to get approved for any card that I want? So this is also something that's going to vary from person to person because there's no one exact credit score that'll automatically approve you or deny you for every single credit card out there. But in general, if you want to get the best cashback or travel credit cards, I would aim to get your score into the 700s first while also having a good income to report on your application. Make sure you prioritize things like making payments on time and having a good credit utilization, which are both things that I've talked about in some other videos. But just remember to be patient with your credit score and getting the credit cards that you want. You also might have to stick with those secured credit cards or other beginner no annual fee cards for a year or two. That way you can establish yourself like I did because I was patient, and then I was able to set myself up to get approved instantly for almost any credit card that I wanted later on. And then for question 3, should I consider APR percentage when choosing a credit card? So for this, I would say yes and no. Yes, because if you carry a balance, then you want that to cost you as little interest as possible, so a lower APR is better. But no, because I don't want you to be using credit cards in the first place if you plan to carry a balance, because the interest rates are so high and even higher right now in 2022 that it's never going to be worth it. Always treat your credit cards like cash by using them if you already have the money set aside in your bank account. That way you can pay off your statement balances on time and in full every single month. That'll help you to avoid interest completely while also collecting rewards and building your credit score at the same time. So for me, the APR does not matter at all because I've never paid a single cent of interest by paying off all of my cards on time and in full. And then lastly, for a fourth question here, should I consider 0% APR offers? So for this, I would also say no under most circumstances, and the reason for that is because I don't want people to get into the habit of carrying a balance. I personally have never used a 0% APR offer because I want to avoid debt unless it's something that I can really leverage for cash flow over the long term, so something like a 30-year mortgage on a rental property, for example. Even if it's costing you 0% interest and you can handle that balance, that 0% offer is only good for maybe 12 to 18 months depending on the card, and to me that's just too short term. Now, if you're opening a business credit card to buy something for your already established business and then you're taking advantage of a 0% APR offer, then I think that's more reasonable. Or if you're doing a balance transfer, that might be okay in some situations, but I really wouldn't rely entirely on balance transfers because there is a fee associated with it, and a 0% balance transfer is really just a short-term solution to a long-term debt problem that many people face. So for the most part, focus on paying off your balances and don't open up a credit card just because of a 0% APR offer. I would open cards with the thought process that we went through in this video and really try to pick credit cards that are going to bring meaningful value into your life. So I like to browse through articles on websites like Slick Deals to give me more ideas on what cards to apply for and help me gather information. So again, go check them out at that link that I have down below because I really like how simple they make it to learn more about the same stuff that I talk about here on my channel. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.